All right, good morning, all of you La La Landers out there in social media world. We'll go on Instagram here, so it won't be live. But just as a disclaimer, I'm not going to tell you anything that doesn't have to do directly to your physical fitness and health, right? And so you've heard me, for those who have listened to me all this time, you've heard me talk about the state of the world and where it's going. All right. And it would behoove oneself to prepare yourself from an interdisciplinary perspective to build new tools, to build confidence in your life, to move forward and do the things that you want to do in life, living through your ideas. It's what I talk about with my I Motivate Me Fitness and Health Investment Initiative. And so you invest in yourself and you build new tools. The only investment that is worthwhile at this point is to be investing in yourself, investing in the ideas that you want. Inflation out there, you have to talk about finances and economics and how we were not taught properly as Americans. The average public school American has no clue what's about to happen in the coming years. And it's behoove oneself to prepare yourself to be resilient in those times, right? And so we talk about all of these things about how your 9-to-5 job is not going to cover inflation. It's not going to cover the taxes to come, right? You found yourself being married with children. Both people have jobs. You're being taxed 1.5 times more than what you were 30 years ago per person. So that's 3 times more of what you're being taxed when you put all the information and data out there, okay? So both parents are working, and then someone else has to take care of your children, right? So where do we find ourselves time for our resiliency, our fitness and health well-being, right? And this goes collectively. We talk about the man's responsibility in the home, the woman's responsibility in the home, and how collectively through that union of marriage, how are we making these things work for ourselves to find equity in all of this? And so we have to get back to the basics, and that's understanding what is going on. Knowledge is power. So I'm listening to some gentlemen talk yesterday, and one of the gentlemen brings up a really great perspective and mindset that he lives in to control his emotions. We talk about mind control, controlling your own mind, right? Through emotional resilience and management. Let's call it emotional management, right? And he says, look, we all know the things in the world that are going on around us. I've been studying a lot of these things for many, many years. And here I am finding myself an opportunity to share my experience and what I am witnessing moving forward. It gives me a few steps ahead. I have built new tools over time. And in doing so, I'm able to see things from a macro perspective as opposed to the micro perspective. Micro perspective being when we live day to day with these headline news figures, and we're working our 9-to-5. We're dealing with the daily trials and tribulations of raising a family. And every single day, it seems like you're either not getting ahead or you're being triggered emotionally by something going on the news, right? Whether it's social media or headline news on your phone or corporate media when you get home and sit down on the couch, or at the airport, or when you're in the hospital, or when you're in the gym. All of this stuff is bombarding you every single day, right? And it deviates. I use the word deviate often. Deviates you from your path when you have these, what I call the actual microaggressions, right? That happen where they bombard you with emotionally triggering and pandering to your emotions with these headlines. So we have these like micro emotional aggressions that occur, and it keep you triggered emotionally and stealing you from your moment. All right. Now, if you think about it from a macro perspective, once this person, and they described it really brilliantly, simply, but it's brilliant in this mindset, is that he's thinking things when he sees these headlines, he understands them for what they are and sees the bigger picture because he has enlightened himself through the power of knowledge to understand holistically the world that he's living in. And deciding to drop all of these political identities, external identities, and realizing what they're being used for. And in doing that, you can take a step back from a macro perspective and see the bigger picture. Now, what does this do? This was something that I came up with yesterday, and I had to write it down. So I'm going to read a few of my notes from yesterday. But basically, the gentleman talked about number one, he's going to live in his intellectual discipline and integrity. And that goes with spiritual integrity, and they go hand in hand. So with the intellectual integrity, we talk about the interdisciplinary ability to interact with, rationalize, and comprehend human consciousness through communication, observation, identification, acknowledgement, and continuous unbiased attainment of knowledge. And that's the key word, or the key phrase rather, right? The continuous unbiased attainment of knowledge. Unbiased. You have to be able to put your identities down to understand the world that's going on, to put it in proper context. And in doing so, once you realize that, it's up to you to continue moving forward, because in the event that you realize the more you know, the more you don't know, it becomes the more you want to continue moving forward. It becomes a purpose in essence. It becomes a part of your eternal consciousness. And if we talk about spirituality and spiritual integrity, then we have to talk about spirituality being the capacity for consciousness. What is consciousness? It's one's level of existential understanding about the world they live in and about themselves, right? And so we have to talk about all of these responsibilities. When you live in that integrity and you realize, you stick to your guns, as I always like to say, you start to see the world for what it is. It tries to drag you back in. The mainstream of consciousness tries to drag you back in, and you have to stick with your spiritual and your intellectual integrity. Staying on your interdisciplinary game, basically. All right. And so then we talk about eternal consciousness. This is the eternal quest for knowledge. All right. It's beyond the body. Your life, your soul is beyond the body. Right. We talk about the embodiment of the soul, and then the ensoulment of the body, rather, where the soul moves into the body, and then the body moves through the materium, expressing that soul in its entirety over time. How do you get to your entirety? By learning more. The more you learn, the more you live through your ideas, exposing those universal ideas that already exist around you. You just have to use that personal initiative to bring them forth into the present, and your idea can be brought forward, right? So we talk about those things. Now, once you see it, you don't unsee. Once you know that there is more. It's a great time to lose my voice. The more that you know, the more you don't know, and you must continue forward. This is like Neo in the Matrix in the movie, where they plug him in and he learns Kung Fu, and he says, I know Kung Fu. And Morpheus says, show me. But he wants to learn more. He's a machine. He doesn't want to stop. He's got that thirst now. He realized what he's been missing out on, right? He's found the self. And in doing so, he's developing and being programmed with these tools. He's programming himself with all of these tools that he can utilize moving forward, right? To get back to the truth. So when you do that, you live through your intellectual integrity, and it promotes a clear vision of purpose and widens the margin of oscillatory threshold by which events affect and trigger an individual exponentially or individually. I said exponentially. I mean, it could be exponential, but I think I meant triggers an individual emotionally, right? But triggers an individual. So that oscillation, we talk about the period of oscillations, right? So your emotional oscillations back and forth, the ebb and flow, right, of life, and then you come into the medium, bringing a balance to the force, the light and the dark, if you're talking about Star Wars and George Lucas and whatnot. When you're living micro, those oscillations, they are very, it doesn't take much for you to sway off your course at a very big magnitude, a very large magnitude, right? Whereas when you're living from the macro perspective, you see the bigger picture because you broaden your horizons. That oscillation has to increase. The margins become much wider of that threshold. The threshold being when you become triggered emotionally to the point where you become an irrational thinker. And now you're less likely to take action. You're more likely to have self-doubt. There's less self-confidence in you, Remember, confidence is being built by those tools that you're developing over time, but you have to take action. People can sit there and rest on their laurels with their 9 to 5 or their salary job. What are you learning outside of that? I know people have hobbies and all of this stuff, and I don't mean to discredit these brilliant people out there who are very masterful in their craft and what they do. In my opinion, in the future, there will be other ideas out there. There will be other opportunities if one, and there will be the necessity for that, for people to explore outside of what they've mastered, right? And then what you realize that you've mastered is very myopic compared to the rest of the world out there. So the oscillatory threshold. So as you live macro, right, it takes more to get you off and deviate you, get you off your path, right? Where if we're living micro, the oscillation is very small. The margins of threshold on that oscillatory pattern of emotionality gets you off of your medium, right? Your balance, your emotional balance. We want moderation, which is a virtue of the Stoic. And this is why folks use the virtues of the Stoic to control those emotions, right? To be emotionally in control, having the courage to get out there and learn the things that you don't know, because in the future you're going to want to know them, right? It's very easy to type into ChatGPT, hey, put together a workout regimen. Yes, that's all fine and dandy, but what if ChatGPT is not there? I have coworkers who currently communicate with one another and then use ChatGPT to do it, and then to interpret what the other person is saying, because one person's not following exactly what they're saying, even though I had no problem reading it and I can be a knucklehead. We're using ChatGPT to communicate at this point. And what happens if that's not available? And what happens if we find out that ChatGPT is not what you think it is? Do you really want to use it? Do you really want to give it your data and information? So you want to know about these things. The very basic things go a long way. The fundamentals of the system that you live in. That capitalism is not just an economic system. It is a societal and cultural. It's got cultural and societal control structure, right? And it has to be able to manipulate your mind or persuade you. We'll not even be negative about it. Let's just say the word persuasion. Persuasion has to be used in deceitful techniques to get you to be an ultra consumer. We're coming to an end of the ultra consumer society, in my opinion. We have too many people to be ultra consuming. Well, in my opinion, too many people ultra consuming and having access to access is going to be detrimental. It's going to be hard on your liver. It's going to be hard on your cells. It's going to be hard on your living conditions. It's going to be hard on your pocketbook. It's going to be impossible with your pocketbook. All right. And so it's very important to understand these things. And this is why in my book, Self-Confidence and Self-Efficacy, the confidence one has that you can achieve whatever it is you want to accomplish. You go out there, like, what do you have the confidence? How capable are you? Do you know yourself to go out there and accomplish whatever you want to do? That's your self-efficacy. And I talk a lot about this. And when that person, yesterday, I heard him talking about your spiritual integrity, your intellectual integrity. There are times when I just want to put it all down, and you realize that you can't. The minute I want to put it down is the minute I go get a 9-to-5 job at a gas station. I'm not doing that, right? And none of us should be settling for that. All right. So, and if you are in that circumstance, let that be a stepping stone for you. I'm not judging. I'm simply suggesting that we are to have the self-respect, self-love, and self-dignity to embark on whatever it is we want to do. You don't need a college degree at this point. Going to school does a lot of great things for you, but if there's one thing it does, it's put you in massive debt, and it doesn't guarantee you really anything. Talk to countless people out there with their testimony about how they've not found a job in their respective field that they got their degree in. These are facts, folks. All right. And it's out there. So you have self-taught people who are out there in the computer world, and they've got a portfolio. They're building a portfolio at a very early age when they're in their teens. These people are independent minds. They have an idea and they go for it at an early age. whatever circumstance they were in, they did not allow it to become mental resistance. Self-doubt, I'm sure a lot of folks like that have self-doubt in their lives, but they went forward and lived through their idea, and they're very highly competitive. And so it's important to be out there and put yourself forward one step at a time. Get yourself out there. Just get yourself out there. So that's all I have for that one. I did not timestamp. This one's a universal one. So you can do your investigation and find out what day this occurred. All right. Peace, everybody.